Hey, what's up, Street Talks? Eric from the Eric Street Photography blog. So today I wanted to give you guys 10 photo tips based on what I've learned in photography. So let's get going. So the first tip I want to give you is the importance of taking photos versus making photos. So in America we usually say, oh, can I take your photograph? But in Europe they actually say make photographs. I know in German I think they say something like machen und Foto, or obviously I don't know German, but idea of machen means to make a photograph. And I think it's such a huge difference, the difference between taking a photograph versus making a photograph. I think taking a photograph is like stealing somebody's soul. It's very forceful. It's something it's very selfish. Whereas I think making a photograph, it's a much more creative process in which you're shooting with your soul and you're trying to make photos to make deeper connections with other people. And the practical assignment you could have in terms of making photos is try to make art, not photos. And so I think one tip is when you're shooting, try to shoot what you feel. So like in this photograph, it was after my grandfather's funeral in Korea, and obviously like kind of a dark time. But after I visited Seoul, I saw all these beautiful cherry blossoms just flowering. And it just kind of made me remember that even though my grandfather's body and he's dead, his spirit lives on. Tip 2, make meaning, not photos. So kind of going to the previous point, I think as photographers, the reason why we make photos is to find more meaning in the world, to make our lives more meaningful, to find more purpose in our life. And I think the central mistake a lot of photographers make is we think that the point of life is to become the best photographer, to get more followers on social media and to get more likes and whatnot. But I really feel the purpose of photography is to make meaning. And so think of photography as kind of a tool for you to find more meaning and purpose in your life. So even myself, I don't really see myself as a photographer. I see myself more like maybe a teacher or a guide or I don't know, blogger, whatever it may be. And everything I'm trying to do in photography is trying to uplift other people and help people feel more appreciation in life with photographing the beauty in the mundane, the ordinary. And so a practical tip or technique you could try out in your photography is only make photos that uplift your soul, which means only take photos of things which make you happy, that when you make a photo, it makes you feel more present. It just, lifts your soars to the heavens, essentially. Tip 3, strip away the superfluous. Think of yourself as a photographer, sculptor. There's a saying, I think it was from Michelangelo, is someone asked Michelangelo, oh, how did you make such a beautiful statue of the David? And he said, oh, it was easy. I simply chipped away everything that wasn't David. Or the idea that reality is your marble block, and your job as a photographer is to chip away the superfluous or what's not necessary to only give you what's essential. And this kind of ties into minimalism, is the more you strip away the superfluous, the more meaning you can find in your life through the small few things you do own. And so the practical assignment is when you're making photographs, look at the edges of your frame and try to make the background as simple and clean as possible. And if you're making photos of a scene and it doesn't add to your photos, it's probably removing from your photos. So don't think about addition in your photography, think about subtraction. Tip 4, don't specialize in photography. We're all kind of told that if you want to be successful in life, you want to specialize. I kind of agree and I kind of disagree. So obviously I focus on street photography, which helped me get my name out there, but nowadays I'm kind of branching off to normal photography because I think we should kind of be like Renaissance people, or Renaissance photographer, that Leonardo da Vinci, he wasn't just a painter, he studied botany, he studied the human body, he was an engineer, he made like thousands of pages of manuscripts and drawings. He was really a keen learner of life. And so I feel like photographers, we often get two pigeonholes, like, oh, I'm a wedding photographer, I'm a portrait photographer, I'm a street photographer, whatever. But all art is art. And so even nowadays, I see myself less as a photographer and just more of a curious person, and I like the idea that you create art in any sort of way. So the assignment is call yourself an artist, not a photographer. So obviously this sounds a bit pretentious, but I think an artist isn't just a pretentious person who's thinking that they're better than everyone else. I think really being an artist is to create art which uplifts you, which encourages you. So you could make art with your body, through your voice, through your poetry, through your writing, through your photos. Whatever art that makes you less stressful and more happy in life and also helps uplift others. Tip 5, make photos that please yourself. So if you're not making photos that please yourself, why are you making photos? So I'll tell you guys this story. I have a buddy named Satoki Nagata, and I had a bunch of photos on my iPad, and I was sitting down with him, showing it to him. I wanted to get his opinion because I really like his photography. And so I said, oh, what do you think about all my photos? And I'm flipping through. He pauses, looks at me and says, what do you think about your photos? And I was shocked. I was like, I never really thought about that. I looked at my photos and I thought to myself, they're okay, but I'm not that crazy about it. And he looks back at me and says, why do you care what I think? So moral of the story is make photos that please yourself, because if you're not making photos that pleasing yourself, you're probably not going to please your viewer. So the assignment is only upload photos that you like. And before you ask people opinion for what they think of your photos, ask yourself, what do I think of my own photos? Tip 6, capture emotion via gestures. It's easy to say, okay, I'm going to make more emotional photos. But how do you capture emotions? I think the easiest way is through hand gestures. So I think one of the ways to make better images is make your photos more emotional, because if you make photos that are more emotional, they punch you in the gut and they burn themselves into your memory. And so you could either ask your subject to make a hand gesture or photograph them while they're making hand gestures, or image selection is knowing which photos to share based on what photos have hand gestures or not. So this image I made of Cindy, I'm doing some portraits of her, and she says, oh, come on, silly, let's go. And she's kind of smiling and using her hand gesture to wave me along. And I feel like that's what breathes more soul into this image. So the assignment is photograph hand gestures. Think about hand gestures, think about hands a lot. Tip 7, photograph with your soul. First of all, what's the soul? I think soul is something that we all have. And you can't just point to your brain or your heart and say, oh, that's where the soul is. I think the soul is what gets you up in the morning. It's what makes us tick. It's what makes us a human being. So you could believe in a soul without being religious. I think of maybe like a soul as this deeper concept of yourself, a combination between your ego, your motivations, and your heart. So photographing with your soul means only make photos that you could make, and only photograph what's personal to you and which brings you happiness in life. And so this is a photograph I made of my grandmother, and I was talking to her and I asked her to laugh, and she's just such a happy person and really uplifts me. And I wanted to put my soul into this photo by saying, oh, grandma, I want to photo you laughing. Go, ha ha ha. And then she starts laughing because she's mirroring me, and then I took about 36 photos of her, and this was the best one. So the assignment is do a photo project on your family. I know a lot of you guys have families, kids. If you guys don't, if you're single or whatnot, photograph your family members, photograph your friends, photograph your coworkers, do a self-portrait series on yourself. If you're in a relationship, photograph your partner. I think that's the most noble project you could do. Tip 8, photography is painting with light. So if you break down the Greek of Latin if you break down the etymology or the word meaning of photography in Greek and Latin, essentially means painting with light. Photo means photons, light. Graphy is like graphing on a piece of paper or drawing or painting. So if you think of photography as painting, I think it really elevates your photography into being more artistic, is that there really are no rules in photography. You could burn your photos, dodge your photos, manipulate your photos, whatever it may be. I used to be kind of more of a stickler in terms of photography, but now I think they're just photography is more visual illustrations, which should affect your emotions somehow and your feelings. And the assignment could be just think about how you could better paint with light to create a better emotion. So whether that's shooting with a flash, photographing during golden hour through window light. I feel like this photograph I really like. I was in an elevator with Cindy, And I just asked her to look up, and I just love these beautiful catch lights in her eyes, the black background with the lights on top. And I shot this on my Ricoh GR, P mode, ISO 1600, 3200. I think I use -1 exposure compensation, so it really brings out the light in this image. So always think about the light. Tip 9, monochrome is bliss, black bliss, which means to me, black and white and monochrome is where it's at. Which because for me, I think it better paints emotion. And obviously you could do this in color, but I think if you're still relatively new in photography, I would just recommend shooting black and white because it helps you think about more shadows, forms, and emotions. So if you're new to black and white photography, just try to shoot it for a month. Last tip, tip 10. Photograph today like it were your last. I don't know what it means to live a good life, but I know what it means to live a good day. And I think if you lived every single day like it were your last, you're gonna have a very fulfilling life. And you really don't know when you're gonna die. Like I'm living here in Hanoi, every time I cross the street and I see a motorbike passing by, I'm like, at any moment, some of these could hit me and I could die. And, you know, I don't know what's gonna happen to me after I die, but I think by photographing each day like it were your last, it's not really about, once again, making the best photos. It's about appreciating each moment of your life and being grateful. And so the top is a photo that Cindy photographed of me, and the bottom is a photograph I photographed my mom sleeping. And so for me, ultimately, photography is about life and death. It's about meditation on living and a meditation on knowing that the only thing guaranteed in our life is death. I know it sounds a bit creepy, but thinking about death a lot could actually improve your quality of life because knowing that I have a very short period of time on Earth, I don't waste any moment of it. So the assignment is imagine like you're dying tonight. What will you photograph? So once again, yeah, treat each day like it were your last. And I mean, it's so cliche, we all hear it's like, oh, live every single day like it's your last, carpe diem and whatnot, but you know, I don't know where you're watching this video, but for the rest of today, yeah, like imagine if you're gonna go to sleep and somehow your throat closes up and you die. What would you do today and what would you not do today? And how would photography be a part of that process? Something to think about. So until next time, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Peace out.